Well, very quickly, apologies have been putting you there online. Ken Egbaz, you well have been worried about the card reader. For you, what do you think went wrong with the card reader? Knowing full well that a couple of things have been said about it, about the film that wasn't taken off in most places, and hands-on knowledge on the operation of that device. Well, Ken Egbers, if you can hear me, I wanted you to let us in on what you think went wrong with the card readers, which a couple of people had problems operating, especially those who were the officials on that day of the election. Well, I'm sorry, I think we lost him there. We should be able to hook up with him pretty much later. We were on the issue of the trust
and payment, and you know, whether or not you think that there's can we really afford these elections?
I think it's a two-way thing. I think it's a two-way thing because you can't just build trust just in a day. It's a process, and unfortunately, we're in a system where you just oftentimes you notice that even if people agree with you on a particular thing, they deviate. Just as somebody mentioned, it's possible that they agree that they're going to pay, and at the end of the day, they will not pay. So you can't build trust in that kind of system. So I think generally, I think it goes back to the issue of value reorientation about what can I do for my country. If I am an observer, do I need to be paid before I can observe election? If I observe this election and I'm able to point out some issues and that will help the coming election, what am I doing? Am I contributing to the system? I think we need to get Nigerians to get to that level for us to begin to talk about the issue of trust. And that's to do with our social context generally, about, just as he said, the question of whether you even have, you are living from hand to mouth, you only have this work to do on that day to make some money. So you are thinking about, okay, if I get the money, I'll be able to pay my family. But I think we need to get Nigerians to the level where people can begin to think that I can even do it for free if I have fuel in my vehicle. So even if they don't pay me, this is important for me, it's important for the future generation, and it's important for my children. But it's a process, we haven't gotten there. But I think
that's the moment where we can actually go to over to Abuja, Vice Cap, where Professor Osita is waiting. Well, he's the Director General Institute of Peace. Let us in on some of the issues Dr. Abiola has raised, talking in terms of volunteerism. How much of volunteerism spirit we have as today in the country when we talk about maybe tasks such as elections?
Well, yeah. Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Absolutely.
I think Viola is right there when she talks about the need for more spirit of volunteerism. But I must say that with respect to the Saturday elections, Nigerians displayed a very high sense of patriotism, and which you can also describe as a sign of volunteerism, because I saw Nigerians who were determined, you know, in spite of some of the hitches that were witnessed in different polling units where we observed elections. Nigerians were determined. Some of them went with their chairs, some with their mats. They were ready to be there, come rain or shine, you know, to be able to exercise their civic responsibilities. And I think that is, something in the right direction, because previous times people, voters used to behave as if people should beg them to go and vote. But this was one election that everyone felt that, look, their vote must count, and they went out, you know, to exercise their votes. Where we observe elections, the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution had observers across the country, and we were monitoring from our situation room here in Abuja. And we found out that everywhere it was the same. People were determined. And I think that, you know, coming from the background where voters were reluctant to even go out and exercise their civic responsibilities, this election has proven that Nigerians can do it, and that we have that spirit of volunteerism, the spirit of patriotism, which can be ignited, at the right time. And I think that the time has come for us to continue to leverage on this kind of show of commitment, to the country.
Well, sorry there, Marco. Since 1999, you recall that we haven't actually seen an election in the history of our country so close to call, with so much of participation and anxiety. What would you say is, the cause of this?
I think that is part of the natural process of building democracy. As we move on, people get more and more conscientized. And I must also give kudos to actors, both state and non-state actors, that undertook to sensitize the Nigerian public about the need, to take governance in their own hands through participation, effective participation in the election process. And I think that was what actually put this election different. I agree with you that this was the most, keenly contested elections in our history, and that is because every Nigerian felt that he or she wanted, to have his or her footprint, in the sands of time. And so it's a positive sign for democracy, because you cannot build democracy where there's no adequate awareness of the citizenry. And I believe that going forward, we will be able to build on this kind of awareness, and then find ourselves in a situation where every time there's an election, people will be mobilized on their own. A lot of resources have been put into sensitization across this country. The Institute for Peace, through partnership with the UNDP, went around the country, the 6 geopolitical zones, sensitizing people. I'm aware that some other civil society organizations did that, government agencies did that, the National Orientation Agency, and so on. So we are building a momentum among the populace that we expect that will be able to be catalytic enough, to put Nigeria's democracy at a pedestal, that awareness will continue to increase. And we hope that this will help us to make people who are in government, responsive, to the society, because they know that the society is aware of what is going on in governance. I think it's a positive development.
Well, Professor, we have been monitoring. I hope I hope I'm right on that one. Well, we have been monitoring the figures of voter turnout since 1979. We chose 1979 because that was the year Nigeria started the presidential election system, presidential system of government. Now, it would seem, we're very interested in what will eventually happen, but you've talked about high voter turnout. But people will say that this also depends to a large extent on the credibility of the process. Do you agree, or do you think that it is the people who turn out who eventually make sure that that system is credible?
To some extent, yes. Yeah, the people that turn out are the people that make the process credible, in the sense that it is the vote that they cast that will eventually determine what happens. And also their awareness, especially against the backdrop that, the current regime of elections is such that the results are announced from the polling units and moving on to the other levels, to the local government, to the ward, to the local government, to the state, and to the national. That way, the people who turned out know that their votes, are counting, and that as they move from one stage to another, that they are part of that process of the credibility of the elections. But above all, we are interested in the fact that Nigerians conducted themselves overall peacefully, and that is something gratifying. And we would like to say that Nigerians would not like to go back on this, because peaceful election, is the most important thing. If you don't have a peaceful election, that is before, during, and after, then of course the election will be tainted. And we believe that the peaceful manner in which the elections have been conducted is something that needs to be appreciated by all. And so Nigerians will have to keep this up so that going forward we will have a situation where elections in Nigeria will be something that we see as a normal, something that is happening normally, not something that happens in a way that people begin to regret after elections.
Well, I'm going to put you on hold now. Just hold on a little for us in our Abuja studios here. Well, Mrs. Adekoya, I'm going to have to draw on some of your experiences. Yes, you're definitely very enlightened, but you did make every effort to want to vote. Was it because you also felt that your vote was going to count, in the sense that the process is now a lot more credible, or did you just feel that you had to show up anyway to ensure that you had your voice heard regardless of whatever happens thereafter?
Well, I did everything to make sure that I was accredited so that I could get a PVC, not because I looked at it as making the process credible, but because I thought that every Nigerian has every opportunity to be involved. The elections are the most important opportunity. And so if we say we are building patriotism, part of our patriotic duty is to vote at an election period.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to vote.
People say that they are more likely to vote if they believe that their votes will count. We've been monitoring just what the figures have been since 1979 and trying to deduce reasons as to why people would turn out or why they wouldn't turn out, why voter population would be high and why it wouldn't be high.
I think it's left to us, the voters, to make sure that our votes count. So it's not a question of you are voting because your vote will count. You can vote and your votes don't count if you don't do anything to protect that vote and to make sure that it counts. And I think everybody who struggled to be accredited as a voter on the voting day, or people like us who tried our best to get a PVC or to get our names on the voters list, tried because we wanted to make sure that our votes will count.
How do you see that process?
Well, I think that 2011 actually signifies a new beginning for us as Nigerians. And also, if you also see the report that we got internationally, people said for the first time we had an election that could be credible despite all the issues. And I think that actually propelled people to begin to think that, yes, if in 2011 we had some, if you compare it to other years, we had some good comments about the election, and people were there, and even post 2011, the Ekiti election, people were there, and it was easy for you to know where the election was going, and people felt even at that level their votes counted. Likewise in Osho State. So since 2011, it seems we had some kind of development where we have been able to build the confidence of the people. Particularly, people seem to believe in INEC. That the election will be free, will be transparent. And so if we see that huge voters turnout, we can relate it to the fact that the electoral management body is getting better and people have begun to have confidence in them. And and they also think that if they vote, their votes will count, and that to me is a reason why.
I wouldn't look at 2011. I'd go back to 1993.
Okay. I think that's a better place for us to pause for now. We'll come back and we'll look at all of that. We'll be looking at Nigeria 2015, the business angle, business and the markets we understand have opened here in the country. Everywhere is so busy. But the news about this particular election is what they are using to spice up business, and the gist stand in hushed tones and in very loud tones, asking questions about results and outcome. Have you heard anything? Is anything up? Even though you have to wait for big INEC to make the results out. Well, we'll have to wait till that time. But again, pretty soon it will be 10 o'clock for the business team to come up and tell us what exactly the business side of Nigeria 2015 is about. And we'll be back shortly to look at that. And we'll be starting off comparing the 1993 election, the big moment for the people of this country, as Ms. Adekoya had just told us. And we'll look at how we can draw experience from all of that on this program. Don't forget, it's Nigeria 2015. The hashtag is Nigeria 2015 as well. And of course, we'll return shortly.